G'day, legends. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. I had a fantastic day with my mates, having a couple of beers yesterday, although I have woken up pretty well. I'm not very dusty, but if you want to, come and join the Telegram. We love to have a rant and a rave, and I think it is, all in all, actually a pretty good space with fairly, well, not unbiased, but we have a lot of people on both sides of the coin, and I actually think that we get somewhere. So come and join. So today we do have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of maps to look at, a lot of geolocated footage as well in that, showing where positions are moving, both near Avdiivka, Bakhmut. We'll talk about some things that maybe I've missed, some criticisms of what I have maybe missed in the reporting. We'll look at conscription of those men who have fled Ukraine now illegally, and they're residing in Poland, Lithuania, Germany, or wherever, and potentially getting them back into Ukraine, of course, to conscript and fight, because we do know that there is a manpower shortage in Ukraine, and I believe that is a far more pressing issue than the artificial issue of weapons and ammunition. Of course, that can be plugged. The manpower one, well, there's a few ways to plug this. There's either mass conscription or those accounts online who are with the flags and the NAFO and F the Russians and blah, blah, blah. If they go and sign up as well, it will immediately fix that problem, and that will have massive effect on the front line. We're also going to talk about Patriot systems and a little bit of everything. But yesterday, talking with some of my mates, and they're happy for me to share this, they have just returned from a few months overseas training Ukrainians, of course not in Ukraine. But one of them did make, after a couple of beers, a bit of a funny. He said, look, we're good at doing this because we've trained foreign forces before with the Afghanistan National Army. Although, let's hope it doesn't end the same way that that did. But they did say that the situation, it's just grim. The only way one of my friends could describe it is it just is grim. Although they're very happy with the standard, given the amount of time, the standard that they could actually get these soldiers to. Although they did express to me that they are shocked at the age of the soldiers that they are training, and also did express concerns around TCCC. If you don't know what TCCC is, it's medical care, it's tactical combat casualty care, but just medical care, about how that is actually going down on the frontline areas, but did express, well, this is a very different war to what we have been in previously. We had air cover, we had choppers and this and that. So we can't expect to have the same amount. But that is from the guys who were over there doing that. Now, let's have a look at this just straight off the bat of this Russian Su-25 here almost colliding with a drone. That bloke is going to need a new bloody G-suit. Although we have seen that in war just in general from now on, regardless of who it is with, drones are going to be part of it. Horribly, drones are just going to be part of it. We've seen Fighter Bomber and other people talk about there's going to need to be some sort of ATC, like air traffic control, eventually around these drones, because that gets sucked into, not even sucked into an engine. If that hits, a vital part of the plane, it may not take down the plane, but it's going to need a huge amount of repairs. Same as like a bird strike, an F-35, for instance, massive amounts of repairs. I know older planes are far easier to fix, but still, there's going to be problems because drones aren't going anywhere. Neither are fighter aircraft. So huge. Now, let's have a look at the maps. People like when I do the maps first, and we have a little bit to go over. So we are going to talk about the Avdiivka front first and some stuff. So here is Ukraine. Here is the capital of Kyiv. The red areas occupied since 22, and the purple since 2014. This being Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk oblasts around here. This is what you'll hear about a lot, as well as you will hear more and more about Sumy and Kharkiv. We know that Ukraine is building massive defense works in both Sumy and Kharkiv for a possible Russian movement across from Kursk or Belgrade here. Will that happen? We don't know. The threat is there, and maybe all it needs is the threat there that Ukraine has to mobilize soldiers and resources to these areas, both of which we know are having a limit in Ukraine currently. But let's zoom down in onto the Avdiivka front down here. So you'll see straight off the bat, I've got it set up so you can see the movement made over the past 24 hours. Now, we have some geolocated footage here of Lvov. It, of course, has come under a fair bit of control, and this southerly push out, of course, now all this area is in grey zone out from Berdachi, and people have expressed to me about the problems of getting troops now out of Berdachi and or out of Semenivka, and that we may see a further pushback on this area of control as well. You see out just to the east of Kedemik, we see a Russian advancement here. If you watched the video a couple ago, you can see this road is very, very critical, as well as this intersection is not great. So supply out from major centers, so Minograd, of course, through to here was good until Ocheretny fell, and then now this road to Kedemik. So now it's reliant on this road, which is not as good, through to Konstantinivka. But let's have a look at something I was sent across, and I'm not completely agreeant with this, but maybe you will, and I'll present whatever. And the guys there, you talk about break-ins, etc., but you fail to understand that the enemy advances are going to be overextended and allow us to be able to obliterate their unmounted troops who have no armor support and exposed ground lines of communications. Now, this is something that we hear more and more, and we've heard it before, and I just don't sort of buy it. I would have bought it back, if it'll let me skip back, maybe a week ago, and this is what, our mate Dennis and whatever was saying, that this is just going to get cut off in here, that there's no support out to here, and that this is going to get cut off of that amount of support to those troops. And what we said at the time was, well, if Russia needs to hold that, they need to fatten it, and that has happened. The same was said when Bakhmut a year ago had the two prongs coming out. Same was said about Avdiivka, and yes, an advancement like that, you do open yourself up to that threat, but we haven't seen too much. We have seen example of course, we have seen examples of overextension in this war, but not recently. And this is part of where you speak about the Russians have learned, and that is becoming an issue for the Ukrainians. The Russians are getting better at what they are doing, but I could be completely incorrect on my assessment there also. But I don't see this yet as an overextension, especially when we saw that Avdiivka at one point, I'm just going to draw really dodgy, was something like this, and it has been able, it should be down here, so here you go, but it has been able to shorten the front line significantly in here, bringing more together. But I could be incorrect. Maybe we will see an attack somewhere on the flank to try and cut this off. Now, let's have a look at what is going on in here, as War Mapper, who's normally very conservative towards gains and claims, has made, which is good. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying it is good. It's hard when I make videos with clickbait, but has talked about this area. Of course, this is Avdiivka, and we look at the fallback lines, as he puts it, or first, second, third lines of defense. So, of course, we spoke about the ones in Avdiivka, which fell when that fell. And then we have this line of defense running through Berdachi, Semenivka, down into Pervomayski, which now a lot of that has come under control, at least by his map showing. And then the fallback line, or the second or third line of defense, however people report it, running through Karlivka all the way up through. We see it runs on the natural border of this waterway down here. But there may be a fallback, and this is what the Russians' issue here is. There's so much open ground to here, but it's also the Ukrainians' issue of moving back through all of this open ground, that we may see a large push over a day. And of course, there's still going to need to be support out to those elements, which is going to be very difficult, but it is interesting to look at. The breach of Ocheretny widens as Russia captures most of the settlement along the Novobakhmutka and a portion of Lvov. Despite Ukrainian reinforcements arriving, they've so far been unable to prevent Russia from establishing a foothold around the settlement. So this is what we are looking at here. It will be interesting to see where this then advances over the next coming weeks. Now, we will zoom in further on this area. We do have some stuff to look at. So we have a bit of footage here. We do see this blown out building here, but you will see a Russian flag being flown here. Hold the drone still, brother. So you can see then the flag here. Now, everything here, yes, everything here has gone through massive, massive amounts of shelling and fighting. So everything is bloody blown to shit, as we see in all of these areas. Now, of course, this is then geolocated to this building right here. So if we zoom in on this map, we're talking right about here. It's blurry to zoom in on, but that is showing with the geolocated footage, same area. We like geolocated footage. Now, Noel reports, this is his map today. So his shows very differently to the MOD map. As far as this close-up of territory through here, it shows the similar amounts in areas, but just shows it sort of comes out and down. So it's same in Novo Bakhmutka, Solovov, but different in between and then to the south. But what we do know is there's definitely 100% from multiple Ukrainian reports, there was an advancement here. Now, this is then the first map of the day of this area from Suryak. That 95% of Australian came under control, combing operations, so sweeping through. In addition, troops entered the eastern part of Solovov, as we saw by then that geolocated footage. Then we have a second one of the day. We'll bring these up. So the first one is on the left. The second one is then on the right. We'll just zoom in so you can get a little bit of an idea of what differences we're seeing. Of course, he's just moved down a little bit to the south of what we are seeing, as well as more between, of course, Osheretne and Solovov as well. That Russian army took full control, so 100% control, he's saying, over both locations and began advancing along the railway in the direction of Sokil and Arka. Oh my God, I'm not going to pronounce that. I apologize. On the other hand, Russian forces captured the last trench system of Semenivka and secured, again, new areas of Badachi at the western shore of the Derna River. So pushing across where Warmapper puts that defensive line sitting across here, closing up that area and I get the Grand Line of communications through here. This will be fine. It's more these extended sort of arms out here, and I don't see yet that it has. But there are other channels saying that Ukraine is purposely falling back to let Russia into a trap to make a mistake. I don't know. I personally, I don't agree with that assessment. I think that is wrong. If it was way out here somewhere in Skinny, maybe. But the movement through here with the air and FAB support and the armoured movement we're seeing, I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm happy to be completely wrong on any of my assessments. Now, we will go down just a little bit down here to Krasnohorivka, as we do need to look at a little bit of footage here and some movements as well. So what we see here is that there is an increase in grey zone as well. You can see just out from Pervmaisky, of course, Avdiivka direction, there's a grey zone change, but no red zone shift in here since we did see that large red zone shift break in over the last few days. Sorry, I do apologise. There is a red zone shift. I am incorrect, but we do have a lot of footage in here too. And what we are seeing is more of the Blyat mobile, if you want to call it, or the tank houses that Russia is having. And like it or not, love it or hate it, these are having success. That these underneath will be just packed with electronic warfare equipment to offer some protection. Now, people go, well, this offers no protection. Well, with a shape charge, RPG, Carl Gustav 84, one of these, if you can preset that off and then it comes into armor, is significantly better. That's why bar armor works really well, even if it's bloody like an open fence. Same as you see on like the back of tanks, you'll have like chains hanging down. I think Makavas have that, but I could be incorrect. But we will look at some armored assaults into here, as well as some geolocated footage. So we have this part of footage here showing then a movement in, let's have a look, and a Russian flag out of this window here. So a lot of Russian flags being flown today. Now where this is just down into the south of Krasnohorivka in this industrial area down here. So let's have a look on this map. We're talking right in about here somewhere. So this map should show that there is Russian control more so. Let's have a look. So this road comes, this sort of this zigzag here. So we're talking in here, this location somewhere. These maps are actually very hard to line up with roads and zooming in, losing quality, but we know there's a lot of movement up to there. This map will hopefully get updated tomorrow. We also have into this factory, this plant here, more footage showing these armored assaults by the Russians in, and of course one of these bloody house tanks here, and these all with extra armor, extra protection, massive amounts of electronic warfare on these and extra protection. So that you can see that this is getting engaged by either definitely not AT mines, but AP maybe, like purse mines, as well as artillery here. and that these are able to successfully advance. We can see the plant here. You can see the building, of course, where that Russian flag was flown. That is the same building. This armoured advancement well out into here, and then a successful withdrawal back out as well. Now, I will say, people don't like me saying this because people don't believe it. Russia has improved their armoured infantry and command skills dramatically across this war with these. And I'm telling you, these bloody things are having a legitimate effect, especially down here where we are seeing them. Now, let's have a look at the Noel reports map. Now, this is showing more so of what we believe is movement here from those videos. So this is the zigzag road I spoke about previously. That is where that flag was. So this should be more so along where my cursor is, somewhere along here. Hopefully this map will not take a few days to update. Now, we will have a look over the maps because Syriac did release a few over the day. So Russian army took full control of the southern district, and then the next map then shows further push. So the newest one here is on the left, further push just to the east of where the map previously. And then the most up-to-date map with this geolocated footage, which we saw in both parts of the footage here. That racing video shows Russian army enter the first buildings of the refactory plant in the center. The fighting continues there. Half the plant is now in grey zone. So, of course, there'll be huge amounts of dismount fighting and armoured movements in and out of this region. Now, let's just move up from here just a little bit into the very infamous Bakhmut, where we have seen that Ukraine took its first bit of ground in, I don't know, but it's been weeks and weeks in here. Now, we have this bit of footage from Sarah, who has not been on the channel for a while, but
late in the evening on April
that they are in Chasiv Yar.
Here, just outside of Chasiv Yar, in one of the medical stabilization points belonging to an assault brigade, the 5th Brigade, in fact, that we were talking about just a few days ago. And it is a quiet night here at the stabilization point because Ukrainian troops are beginning to get the upper hand again.
So saying that Ukrainian troops have the upper hand in this region.
Some injuries come through. The morale is strong. And the fact remains that Chasiv Yar has not fallen to the Russians. And in fact, Chasiv Yar will not fall to the Russians. Every single one of the troops who came through here tonight.
So a big claim that Chasiv Yar, well, we know Chasiv Yar has not fallen to the Russians. We know that. But has also said that it will not fall to the Russians, which I don't know. The movement here from what we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks, what we know that Ukraine has is not going to get any of that backfill of weapons that's going to really have an effect on the front line for an amount of time that I don't know. I think that may be a large, eat your words in the future, potentially. It's a large claim to make. Now, let's just go. Where else do I want to go? We've gone there. Let's actually go right up into the north before we come south a little bit. So we're just going to come right up here. Now, no other map is showing this, but down in here, this Kislivka, we actually do see that Russia did have an advancement up to this road running through here. So no other map is actually showing that. So yeah, take it as you will. But if it's the Ukrainian MOD, deep state saying Russia had an advancement, then they probably had an advancement. It would make no sense for them to say then otherwise. So we need to look at this Zaporizhzhia here in this Seversk front. So there has said to be made some amount of Ukrainian ground in here, although this map isn't showing any movement here. Even if I zoom out, there's no movement shown. And to try and line up where this actually is difficult, but I believe it's just out to the west in this region in here somewhere. So this is said to be, by NOAA reports, some movement made in here. We'll wait for other confirmations of that as well. So where we go to next, we have a lot. But before we move into the south, I want to have a look at what then War Mapper has said about this area. There are some small changes down in here, but it says Ukraine's fortifications in Zap are steadily expanding, with new positions identified weekly and two main lines formed mirroring the Russian defences. The rear line is more complete, although it still largely lacks the dragon's teeth used as a secondary barrier. So we can see this is the Surovikin line through Raporny areas down here, and you can see what Ukraine's defences are being built up, although not to the same extent that the Russian defences are through to Tokmak, through to Orkiv, areas like this. So, but we can see massive amounts of defensive works built up waiting for what happens here. And personally, I don't think that either side currently possess the equipment, manpower, or will to actually cross through either of these defenses. So I don't think we'll really see too much movement on the south. I could be wrong. But we can see that massive build up there as well. Now, we'll come down into I call this then the Uruzani front. Let's see if there's any movement on this map. All we see is this tiny bit of grey zone movement here, showing that there may be less under Ukrainian control as it has taken out of the green here. And then we do see that in this same area, Suryak shows this where that we saw that move here, and this is the same area. During the last days, Russian army continue attempts to enter Uruzani. Small gains were made in the southern warehouses. So we know there has been change in that direction. We just don't know how much because it's not confirmed across both maps. Now, this is the exact same situation we see on the Orikhiv Robotny front, that we see a grey zone shift here. So we know there's been a shift, but to confirm what has changed is difficult. Then we come onto this map and it's showing in a different area. Of course, that's showing out from Verbove, and this is speaking out near Robotny. Of course, these maps are where they're the most different situations up front. During the last 24 hours, Russia made new advances southeast of Robotny. What's actually going down in here beats me. We really, really don't know, because these are just showing very different claims on both of these. Now, we have one more, and I don't believe we see any change on this map. We haven't really talked about Krinky down here in a long time. Actually, sorry, I am incorrect. We do see that there was a Ukrainian advancement here, although it's not shown in blue, so it must be a loss, an increase of grey zone. I don't know why this isn't shown as blue. We do know there are Ukrainian troops present here. Either way, down in this Krinky front, like I said, I hadn't looked at it and I was incorrect on this, but the situation on Kherson front, Krinky. Since the beginning of the month, the axis of Krinky gained intensity again. Ukrainian army does not desist in its attempts to hold on the south bank of the Dnieper. During the last 2 weeks, the troops widened the bridgehead by taking new positions on the bank of the Konka River. So where we are speaking about here. The problem with this is, yes, you're going to have soldiers here, but there's huge amounts of just shelling, and the amount of equipment you'd need to come through to expand significantly in here would be massive and seen. We know this whole area is just under constant ISR, especially when Russians try and get into here. It's Ukrainian ISR or vice versa, and the amount of shelling between going both sides is massive. But I believe that this is one of the most important areas that Ukraine need to hold. They need to hold something on the left bank or for the whole way down into the south, especially if there's ever to be a push down somewhere towards Crimea. Now, let's have a look at some other things, bits and pieces that I wanted to speak about. Let's speak about conscription and what may or may not happen with guys who have fled into the EU. So we had this come out. This was from Kiev Independent. The Ukrainians with terminated passports will be allowed to stay in Germany. They may get a temporary residence permit or prolong their valid one. This comes, oh my God, this comes after the ban for 18 to 60. And of course, we know that that has shifted because, of course, if you were 15 and a half when the war started, you're now turning 18. On the other end, you're going to be 58. You're going to be like, okay, I can leave. But the Germans have said this is being reported by DW, that Ukrainian refugees do not necessarily need to have a valid passport. The main thing is the German authorities have to have at least some possibility to establish identity. Well, if you don't need an ID to vote, I guess, in some countries, but, anyway. But, yeah, you need some level of bloody ID. But the right to stay in the country and all related opportunities, the representative of the Senate emphasises, remain valid regardless of the decision of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine to temporarily suspend provision of consular services. So we're not going to put you up and send you back. The Ukrainian embassy and consulate refuses to issue a renewed passport to a citizen of Ukraine on the basis of not having served in the army. This in Berlin can issue a travel document that replaces the passport, although this will be done only in exceptional cases. We don't know how exactly that is going to look, although Poland and Lithuania may have very different. So this is from, who was this? Poland's defense minister. We've suggested for a long time that we can help the Ukrainian side ensure that people subject to military service go to Ukraine. The Lithuanian counterpart, and we'll have another one on him in a second, said Ukraine is in very short of mobilisation reserve. This is not fair to those citizens who are fighting for their country. We've said the same from Dmitry Kuleba as well, that it's unfair for those bloody sipping cocktails out in the EU compared to those who are sitting in the trench on the front line. We know there's a huge manpower shortage. Lithuania's defense minister, so the guy we spoke about before, has said, of course, no one will collect them and take them to Ukraine. This will not happen. But it is possible to limit these persons in terms of social benefits, work permits, documents. These are options that I hear from the Polish side. So limit what you can do and try and force you back across, although we're not going to pick you up and chuck you back across the border. Of course, people will just, I think, continue moving. So let's wait and see what option they offer. Maybe it will be suitable for Lithuania. So we will see exactly what will happen there to plug those holes. Now, a Ukrainian drone has come down in Russia, an E-300 Enterprise fixed wing. So this is just a civilian, sort of normal aircraft here. Crashed in Russia, claimed to be 1,000 kilometers from the border, so a hell of a long way in. We've seen these go a long way in. Russian media, right, a camera was installed, this bloody thing here, you see on the front of like helicopters shooting movies, and it carries a Fab 100 aerial bomb. So of course this is a kamikaze plane here moving in, although this one has come down in a field. Again, we've spoken about these will be very useful because ATC may just see this as a civilian plane, not as a drone, but has come down here unsure exactly what from. Now, everyone was hoping that Greece would send Patriot or AD into Ukraine. Although this has really come out that the Prime Minister has said, no, Ukraine asked for S-300 Patriot, but we're not going to send it. So with this scare, Greece is not going to send Ukraine either S-300 or Patriot. We were asked and we explained why we cannot. Here is the statement they have of him. Let me explain it a little more detail. Greece has supported Ukraine in various ways with defense material, but we have said from the first moment that we cannot dispose of weapon systems which are critical to our deterrent capability. We have surplus material with which we can support Ukraine. We have done so, and I think it is the right choice. And to the extent that we can find such material, we will continue to do so. However, the air defense systems to which you referred are critical systems for the protection of Greek airspace. I wonder who from. And will not be granted to Ukraine. So that is closing that chapter there. And there's going to be more leaning on other areas, maybe Spain, other countries, maybe Germany, maybe the US. Of course, the country with the most is the US, but there doesn't seem to be much real budget on this. Maybe one or two more systems. Yes, these are a well over $1 billion system, but Ukraine has said that they need like at least 7 up to 20. So that is not going to get plugged anytime soon. But Legends, I think we have covered a little bit of everything. Thanks for all your support with everything. I do really, really appreciate it. What else? Did I forget anything? No, come and join the Telegram. If you'd like to support me, links down below. But look after yourself. Oh, have a great weekend. Apologise, I missed that right at the beginning. I should have, for the 3 people that remain to the end of the video. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.